Welcome back to another episode of Talking Tech. Today I'm joined by TJ Nicolson. Thank you for joining me, TJ.
My pleasure.
Maybe you could start. I know we're going to discuss high performance teams and how to manage and build them, but maybe you could start with a little introduction to you and your technical journey and kind of where you are today.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Nick. So I think I started way back in the days of fax machines and voicemail. Was my start of my technical journey, really, and then grew into telecoms, working for Motorola for quite a while, and then BlackBerry and Telefonica and Vodafone, and then I've transitioned to having really gone into the field of NFC. I went into Visa and started working on I was program manager for when we brought in tokenization in Europe. So creating that token vault in Basingstoke and that whole program of work. Moved across into more of the consulting part of work within financial services, heading up payment at BP across the world, really. So retail payments, predominantly doing the transformation of the European space. We changed all of the payment terminals across Europe, 9 countries during COVID. And that was a challenge in itself of transformation programs. That's not the time to start one. But it was a different world, trying to find licenses for engineers to go in and out of cities in Germany, for example, and even having documents for drivers delivering parts in the UK. So some of those difficulties as a transformation lead that you don't even think of, and then suddenly it comes out of left field, but you deal with it and continue to move forward. More recently, I've been SVP of Technology and Operations at AV, which is a payment gateway company that provides payment gateway services all across the world, and that was a good journey as well. But now I'm doing more consultancy work and helping people generate high performing teams and transition and transformation.
I mean, it's a serious journey. That work for some very well-known companies, big projects, huge amounts of responsibility. That you mentioned there, ultimately, you're now heading down the route of building, managing high-performance teams, which I think every client or every C-suite person I speak to is like, that's their goal and that's their utopia. Started off with trying to make it basic. How do you manage those teams? How do you build them?
So I think I have a fairly simple formula for developing a team. I have 5 rules that I run with. The top 3 above my head: be kind, be human, laugh, praise in public, correct in private. I think by keeping them clean and simple, they're easy to comprehend. They also transition across all languages and all regions. They've worked for me out in Taiwan, they've worked for me in Australia, they've worked for me across in Europe and the US. The ability for everyone to understand what those mean is key. The hard part is getting people to actually live them. They start living them when they start experiencing them, and that comes from the leadership. So if myself as the leader, I live those values 24/7, 365, and then people know where they are. A lot of people in technology, especially, like to know the area they're playing in. And that also goes for how they're going to be managed. A lot of us don't like a fluctuating emotional experience when it comes to being managed or having expectations set or implied. I think with those 5 rules, it gives people the ability to ask the question that they might not be comfortable with, and then also know that the person is brave enough to ask that question in an open team meeting, for example. Well, just be kind to them. Just because you think it's blindingly obvious doesn't mean it is. And it's those emotional, that EQ value that I think senior leaders often miss out on because they're in a rush, right? And also because we're looking 3-6 months down the road. Your team might not necessarily be doing that. They might be looking at what's happening in the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
So therefore, their prioritization of a question will be more instant and more urgent for them because you mentally dealt with it, back in June.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the key things that as leaders we have to remember, that just because where we are doesn't mean the rest of the team are there as well.
Yeah.
And you also have to keep just checking over your shoulder that they are coming with you. And then those reset moments within the team meetings and being open about what's happening and how we're doing, what we need to do better, and then measuring that success as well. That's part of that being human and understanding how performance affects everybody. And make it personal, right? Grow that belief in what it is you're trying to achieve. For BP, for example, I had quite a large team. Very few of them were BP employees,
right?
But we worked as a team because we had a one team mentality, because we all knew what we were doing. We were all treating each other with those 5 rules in mind, and we had that kindness and we had that openness and we had a laugh. And we'd get on a a weekly call, and the first 10-15 minutes would be just going around seeing what happened, who needed some help, who didn't need any help, how could we help, and then we get into the minutiae of what the taskings were. And I think having that one team mentality, because you're all working within that 5 rule parameter, is what allows people to be comfortable. And when they're comfortable, they grow and they bring their passion. And you see them really perform, and then you see them helping others perform. And at that point, you're winning.
So, I mean, they're probably things, when you talk to leaders and managers, things that they know they should do, they know they should set up as a team, especially with the likes of BP's, BlackBerry, like large consulting organizations where you're getting parachuted in. How I buy into the values. Is it hard, or what are the difficulties instilling that when you come into a team when you haven't been there at the start and you're getting put into that group? What are the issues with that?
I think you have to stop there's a phrase that used to get bandied at Vodafone, which was seagull management.
Right.
So someone would come in and shit all over everything and then fly away. So you need to prevent the seagull management, or the drive-by management was the other one. And you do that by asking what is it that we're trying to do? What is our measure of success? It's the same for if you were doing a pilot, and pilots fail more frequently because scope creep. We need to know, we need to validate and revalidate what is our criteria for success for this activity, whether that's a pilot or whether that's building a team up. Is it in the next 4 weeks, I want to see a 25% increase in throughput. Okay, that's a measure of success, right? So we hit that, right? What's our next measure of success? And by the time you've hit the second one, the team will be generating their own measures of success. Okay. And at that point, you need to let, as senior managers, we need to let the teams validate, fail, start again, validate, succeed, fail, succeed.
Yeah,
and those are easy. Those are easy to say.
Do you let them fail? Like if you know,
Absolutely.
Okay.
You have to. Right. You have to. People don't buy it. If you're going to be wearing the superhero cape, get out.
Right.
Right. Because you shouldn't be one person. That's not a team, is it? That's an individual. And whilst they're great, and individual performers and individual contributors can be really critical to the success in some areas, they're not brilliant for building a high performing team.
Right.
They're very good if you can turn them to training and helping the high performing team. So you create a team that have drawn the knowledge down from your superhero oh, thank God we've got Steve, because without Steve, I don't know what we do, right? We've all done it. We've all had it. We've all employed them. But actually, if you've got Steve to train Alan, Emma, and Claire, you're winning much more. And that's the performance change. Go from one to many, then suddenly your many is a high performing team, and then also your many can then go into other teams and share that knowledge and that methodology with the other team. So if you've got, say, I don't know, 12 scrum teams, you've developed a couple of really good high performing scrum teams, cherry pick across and swap a few of them around to other, and then suddenly your whole train of scrum guys comes up. And that's how you can do it.
And is that also a factor, I suppose you said, is identifying those key people when you go in, of who's going to be your leader within that team, who's going to be that person that you need them to kind of,
and who wants to, because you might have Steve who's a brilliant, but you might hate people. Right. There might be a reason he's a single contributor. It's because he doesn't like talking to other people. He just likes to get it done. And that's fine. But don't make him your linchpin for changing everybody else just because he has all the knowledge. Find the person that can get in his head and do those translation services.
And so I was about to say, with that is in that situation, Steve, does he stay a member of that team, or is that kind of potentially an issue for how they go forward?
I tend to put them on an individual contributor track. At Motorola, they had a complete career ladder for individual contributors, and I thought it was genius, because they had some incredibly intelligent, pattern writing everyday engineers who could take half an hour to decide what they were going to have for lunch. Because it was so outside of their field of operating. Whereas if you said, here's your lunch, they went, thank you very much. And that was it, done. So having that, understanding some of your people are going to be much better as individual contributors, and don't penalize them financially or career-wise or embarrass them, be human, be kind. And then you'll see that they grow. Your other individual contributors who are struggling within a team might also suddenly come out of the woodwork. People you thought were a good team, or I don't quite understand why he doesn't fit in that team. Well, actually, because he really doesn't like being in that team, or he wants to go his own path. Don't stifle that growth, because actually you're restricting your company's growth by doing that. So actually allow them to have separate responsibilities where they have to work with the teams. Don't let them be an island in the middle of the North Sea, but they have to learn and they have to share their knowledge. I think that's the key part with the ICs, is making sure that they are doing a share. I would run a Friday afternoon hour of training, whole team, come if you want, come if you don't want. If you don't want to come, don't come. But if you can, great. If you're prepared to present, even better. If you're one of my ICs, you're going to be presenting at some stage over the next 12 weeks. So that actually is a really good way of, and some of them would be terrified by it, but actually, because you're being kind, being human, and having a laugh with it, they get okay with it. They settle into it. They don't mind being a little bit embarrassed, because actually they're amongst their colleagues that they now trust. They're amongst people that aren't going to, embarrass them about what they may have said, or if they got something wrong, or if they were too quick. And actually that helps them see that the IC path is great for them, and that actually I quite like educating people, because that's where I can get my bit of a buzz at being the knowledge expert. So it's how your team dynamics are critical, and understanding also that leadership interaction is also critical. So if you've got senior leaders that always went to Steve, well, actually you need to say, no, you need to go to Claire first, please. Right. Claire's now the conduit. Go through Claire, and she'll inform Steve that, but actually he's got these activities he's doing. He isn't your, this server's broken. Go and see that team. So there's that to re-educate, and that takes a while. and closing the back doors down takes a while, but
imagine.
they do get there eventually. And also the ICs get more comfortable if they're not getting pinged by, you know, someone dropping in from the top. So you actually get more performance out of them as well.
So, I mean, clearly you've done this for a long time. You're very experienced. You've obviously set up great teams. One of the things I always want to know is what are the common things you see with teams that fail to reach that high performance? What are the issues? What that generally crop up with that?
I think that generally it's a lack of training, and it's not necessarily technical training. It's where it gets really interesting about different cultures as well, and understanding that when you've got we all have companies where we have teams in different countries, and understanding that cultural difference between how someone approaches a problem in the UK to say how someone approaches a problem in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
Culturally, or the Czech Republic, culturally very different, but quite similar. However, you know, if you've got an Eastern Bloc country, then getting older members of that team to be more expressive could be going against what they've only ever lived, right?
Yeah.
And understanding that takes a little bit more time and often takes a bit more face-to-face time. So those are the ones where, you know, if you don't get that understanding of the culture right, and we've all had the Indian experience of where they've nodded yes and meaning no.
Yeah.
And that's an understanding of, make sure that what you've asked for is A, understood, and B, they're going to actually do it.
Yeah.
But you as the leader need to validate without micromanaging. Fine line, right? Fine
line. And it's that I'm assuming that's linked as the trust, building in trust, which is like, that's the hardest thing to do, right? When you first start out and they don't know you.
I think being open with people is the easiest way to build trust with them. Share. I think that in the days of you know, always being on a Teams call, it makes the in-person meetings much more emotionally valuable, and plan them properly. Don't allow them just to be business. Allow them to be team building as well.
Yeah.
And something silly in there, something that they haven't done in an age. Go and do something together. That's you need to build the emotional bank account credit, I think is what we used to call it. So that, you know, you're not always just saying, Andy, can you help me with this? And it's like, hey, Andy, I've just got a cup of coffee, mate, just because I was getting some. And then walk away, right? You know, hard to do on Teams, but also what you can do on Teams.
That's what I was going to say. What do you do on Teams? Because that's where everyone's going, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the ping them in the afternoon or in the morning or whatever, a quiet time, and just have a 20-minute chat, 10-minute chat. Hey, I'm just checking in with you. You're on my list. I've got a list behind my screen of all the people on my team, and I'm just checking in to see how you're doing. You know, and then just shoot the breeze for 10-15 minutes, and that's it, right? And then, but don't ask them to do anything in that call. Yeah, never ask them to in that call. Never ask them to do anything.
Right. Yeah.
That's my golden rule. Is don't, when you're doing a check-in. Don't do a check-in and, by the way, here's this really horrible piece of work I want done.
But by tomorrow, please, if you can.
Is it ready yet?
Yeah, that's, I think, even us as a business, one of the hardest challenges I find is getting that emotional attachment and that empathy via Teams, because face-to-face is just, whether it's clients, our staff, candidates, you get so much more from people's body language, eye contact, the way the intonation in their voice, which I will struggle with a bit on Teams, unless you know someone and already met them or had a chat.
Yes, I think that's true. I think what I've done where I've worked in companies where English might not be the predominant first language of the people on the team, Teams has been great now that it does the transcript. So run the transcripts when you're doing a Teams call. So you get all of everything that's being spoken in the transcript, and then everyone's got that transcript as well. And I'm also a cameras on guy.
Yeah.
If you joined it's an old agile adage of you vote with your feet, right? Either you're in the room or you're not in the room.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got your camera on, you're in the room. If you haven't got your camera on, you're not in the room.
Yeah.
It's that simple, right? You're not in the room if you haven't got your camera on. We've all been on calls where we've gone, yeah, I'm turning my camera off because I want to do something.
Yeah.
Right. We've all done it, right? So accept that it happens, but also accept that if someone's doing that, you need to go, what is it that's not working for you?
Yeah. And I'm assuming in that situation, you're not doing that. You're grabbing them later and going.
That's your rule 5. That's your correct in private.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the hey, can I have a, Adam, can I have a word? Because I noticed, the second call you've joined, but you haven't put your camera on. And also, it's quite interesting when you get to the end of a Teams call and you say goodbye and everything's finished, right? Who's still on the call? Because if their camera's off and they're still on the call, they were never on that call.
They would have, yes.
Those are ones to look for, right? Because that will give you something else is going on, or they joined it because they felt they had to join it, not because they wanted to join it. So they weren't getting any value out of it.
Yeah. I think that you saying that sort of correct in private bit is sometimes, especially for new leaders or new managers, quite hard to do if you're on a Teams call, whatever. And I know I've done it before when there's someone's camera not on, and you're like, Nick, why is your camera not on? And they kind of like come back and put it on. You can see them like all a bit flustered,
petrified.
Yeah. But it's quite an easy
it's
thing.
Stopping yourself, right? Because instantly we want to go, what's your camera on? No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Well, I fall into the trap not do that. I usually like message them on the side. Why is your camera not on? Which again, the sort of screen pops up and they look terrified again. But
what you want to do is you want to message someone whose camera is on and say, hey, can you ping Andy to put his camera on?
Yeah. Clever. Like it.
Method, right?
Well, actually, I've got one last question, because saying that for new, part of the reason we're doing this is for new leaders and people starting out down this journey of how they build them. For someone stepping into that kind of leadership role for the first time, like what would be a bit of advice you'd give them to help them out in their first kind of running a team, trying to turn them into high performance, trying to kind of meet those? It's usually a business strategy that they've been put in front of, or a technical roadmap. What bit of advice would you give them?
Tell the team what you're trying to achieve and why.
Yeah.
And listen. Actually listen, not just hear. Listen what the team say about it, right? Because the team will have all of the answers probably, right? Or at least 80%. Yeah. And if you can get 80% of it done, you're laughing. But listen to what they've done and how they've done it previously, and what they wouldn't want to do again.
Yes.
Yeah. So then you can say, right, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Then we're going to plan this together, right? It's not an edict, right? The edict is get it done, not how to get it done. So let the team decide how they're going to get it done, and how quickly can they get it done, because speed is always the essence. But then don't make it unrealistic, and also don't allow the negative experience of previous ones to actually impregnate this, and be realistic about it. And then also talk to your peers that you're working with to say, this is what I did with the team, this is what we came up with, how does it smell to you, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like off the back of this, you'll probably get a lot of people contact you asking for like advice, help. It's like a very clear, and it's industry transferable, right? I mean, it's like,
Absolutely. It's I'm always open to help people and encourage and share the grey hair and scars. That's the pitfalls. Don't always get it right, but hopefully everyone I've helped is in a better position than they were before.
TJ, I really appreciate your time today. I've kept you for a while anyway, but thank you very much for joining us on Talking Tech. Hopefully we'll get you on another episode, but very much appreciate your time today.
Love to. Thanks a lot, Nick. Cheers.
Thanks, TJ. Speak soon. Bye.